Thanks for joining us. I'm Cody Holyoke. We've got a jam-packed show for you today, all about the Republican primary race for governor in Missouri. And it's turned into a three-way battle between Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, and State Senator Bill Eigel. We'll hear from each candidate today. We start with Mike Kehoe.
I didn't inherit a well-known political name. My father left when I was 1. When you start with nothing, you learn how to get things done.
Kehoe has an extensive career in Missouri politics. The North St. Louis native started out as a car dealer, eventually running the state's Highway and Transportation Commission. He spent 7.5 years in the state Senate, eventually becoming majority leader. Governor Parson made him lieutenant governor in 2018, and voters elected him to the job 2 years later. Kehoe's been challenged a lot lately about his positions on foreign land ownership in Missouri, and that's where we begin our conversation today. So much has been said about China by your campaign and by your opponents, specifically when it comes to foreign land ownership. You've been on both sides of this issue over the years. As state senator in 2013, you supported a push and helped override a veto to sell some land to foreign entities, but now back new restrictions. What is your position on this today?
Yeah, the 2013 vote was about saving 450 jobs in Northwest Missouri. It was not specifically about a China land issue. But relationships have changed with our country since then, and I've been very clear for the last several years that enemies of our country, and there's a list of enemies, is about 7 long. It's who you would think: China, Russia, Venezuela, etc., should not only not own farmland, but they should not own businesses in our state. So I don't want to balance this problem on the backs of Missouri's farmers. I believe across the board it should be nothing they should be able to own here.
Some of them already do, as you said. How would you retroactively change that then as governor?
Well, you've looked at other states who have tried that, and they've been challenged several different times. So the first thing you would do is you want to stop any more from going forward, and then you'd want to work with those businesses to figure out a way, if there's a way to get them out of that solution.
We talk about just the heated rhetoric in this campaign. There's been a lot of flash, a lot of back and forth, very contentious, especially on the Republican side. Where do you stand on that right now going into the election?
Well, you know, unfortunately, it's the tone that politics have gotten to, but I think it also demonstrates the difference between me and some of the other candidates in the race. They really want to govern by chaos and by screaming and hollering and yelling. Certainly that's one way to communicate with folks, but I'm a relationship person. I'm going to work with people to get a conservative solution to the problems Missouri faces, but we're not going to do it through chaotic measures.
We will say that PAC supporting you did put out an ad in Chinese that was an attack ad on Jay Ashcroft. What say you about that?
Unfortunately, as you know, with Missouri laws, and in their defense, the other candidates cannot tell the PACs what to do or what not to do.
Let's talk about taxes. Years ago, you've got a history in automobiles, safe to say, and highway work with the state. You supported raising a gas tax in Missouri, which goes toward improving and building roads. Typically, conservatives are against tax hikes. Does that help or hurt you in this campaign?
Well, let me just say a couple of things. I was the first candidate in this race to sign the No New Tax Pledge with the Norcourse Institute. The other candidates soon came around, but I was the first one to do that. I've supported over $2.4 billion in tax cut, putting money back in Missourians' pockets. I think that's the most important thing we can do. And when it comes to infrastructure investment, it's not unusual for conservatives to be behind that. Governor John Ashcroft was the last one to increase the state's gas tax back in the 90s, and he did it because it was a conservative solution to a problem we knew we had. And so supporting infrastructure investment has not been unusual for infrastructure Republicans.
Mm-hmm. You and your opponent support the removal of a state income tax, which is the vast majority of where Missouri gets its general revenue. How do you make up for that shortfall, the billions and billions of dollars coming?
Well, look, what Missourians need to understand is, since I've been in the Senate in the last several years, we've taken Missouri's personal income tax from 6% down to 4.7%. The entire time, you have not seen a depletion in service. We've fully funded education, we've funded our roads, we've funded critical infrastructure needs and public safety. So there's a way to get there. We have a plan to get there. We have Senator Jim Talent as one of our advisors on this campaign, and we believe that putting money back in Missourians' pocket is the best thing we can do. It's the old Ronald Reagan theory. If I give Missourians back money, they'll spend it back into the economy, and the ripple effect will help us get where we need to go.
Understandably, though, going from 6 to 4.7 is different than going from 4.7 to nothing.
But we've done it over a structured period of time that's been responsible, and that's the same way we can go from 4.7 to 0. We can definitely get there.
We've had a big issue this year in Kansas City with the sports teams and talk of them jumping ship and maybe going over to KCK or jumping the state line into Kansas. How would you, as governor, work to keep the teams in Missouri?
Yeah, sure. You know, I'm not a fan of spending public tax dollars on stadiums, but I am a fan of economic development. And I say all the time, if the Kansas City Chiefs and Royals, if you took their last names off of those businesses and said it was Joe's Widget Factory, and they're a very important economic development operation in our state, they provide jobs, they provide an economic impact, and they wanted to move to some other state, everybody and their brother would be saying, how do we save that Joe's Widget Factory? We need to look at this conversation where it's a good return for investment on taxpayer dollars. You never want to get an economic development incentive out there that's a horrible return from Missourians. There's a way to use tools in the toolbox that we already have and work with the community to make sure we keep the Chiefs and Royals here in Missouri where they belong.
Do you agree with the Star Bonds proposal in Kansas? Missouri does not have that tool in their toolbox.
They don't have that tool. They've had some problems with the Star Bonds, as you know, over the past, and they have a problem that we don't have. They don't have a stadium at all. And so they're really starting from scratch, and we're starting from a little different position.